before we get going, let me know if you can hear me in the chat, just so I can have that peace of mind. Message retracted? Oh, okay. You can hear me. Cool. I'm just quickly throwing this link into the Discord just in case people want to join from the Discord. I'm going to throw it there. So unprofessional. Should have done this before going live, but we will survive. Okay. Here we go. Make sure my cameras are working. Close-up shot here. And then, of course, the full desk. The full desk might get used a little more today just because we do have the 1.2 meter Corsair, which is a little bit bigger. But for starters, we can start to close here. We've got this system with a Arduino Nano 33, or it's an Arduino Nano 33 IoT, which the IoT stands for something. I don't really know. Like, you can use it for more Bluetooth things. So if you want to use a different board, feel free. But I'm using this board, and we got this ultrasonic sensor which measures depth, and we're going to use that to turn on this red light to show me how close I am to the ground. If I'm too close, the light will turn on. If you do want to follow along with all of these individual components and everything I'm using here, I've got a Google Doc that should be in the description of this stream, and you can copy it, or you can do whatever you want with it. But it's got all of the links to all these parts, as well as the reasoning for having all these parts, and like links to the 3D printed parts. If you have Thingiverse, you can go there and get those parts. But everything should be on that Google Doc, so feel free to use that as you want. But I'll do a quick little demo of how this should hopefully work sitting here on the bench, so that I can prove that at one point it does work. So we got this little light. This will be powered with a 2-cell battery. If you want to know exactly what one, it's in the Google Doc, so I'm going to keep referring to that. But if we plug in this battery to this battery plug, this board will turn on, and this ultrasonic sensor it's going to start reading. And then this light will turn on if I get too close. So, and again, I tested this like an hour ago, so I know it works. But as you can see, this light turns on the board. You might not be able to see, but more importantly, this little light here, if I get too close, it turns on. And then if I'm far enough away, it goes off. Oh, okay. I appreciate it. Folks need to request access. I don't want access to be necessary, so I'm going to hopefully unlock it, because that's the whole point, was if people want it, it should not be anyone with link. Okay, copy link. I'm going to update that really quick. Thank you for the heads up. Here we go. Have a description. Okay, here. Okay, I just updated the link, so you might have to refresh this stream. I don't know. I changed it to anyone with the link can view. The range on the sensor, according to online, it is, I think, a couple meters, which is all that I'm looking for. You can have it really close. Right now I have it set relatively close. I think I have it set to 100 centimeters. You can't, oh, here, this will be better. So you can see this light is turning on, and if I put my hand above the sensor and move it far away, it still stays on as long as I'm in that range, and then I move away and it turns off. So that's kind of the idea, is that as I come into land, it can just turn on and say like, hey, you're getting kind of close, and then as I fly up, the light will turn off. I don't know if it's kind of half reading the ceiling or there's a pole over here that might be reading, but that's at least the idea. You can see it's just going to read it, and it shows me when it's getting close to landing, as it may or may not be actually helpful. I think at least it's going to be really cool, and that's kind of the whole goal. So again, that proves that this does work. So in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, when this is not working anymore, I can look back and say, yes, I know it worked. So the first step I want to do is depinning. Yes, the warbirds are tricky to land, especially when you do something kind of silly like this and put the head tracker inside the cockpit, which makes it even further back. So far, I've had 2 successful landings and I've had 2 unsuccessful landings. But either way, we're actually going to, this red LED is going to go in this furthest right porthole. And if you've watched the other videos, you know that the middle 2 are for the gear and the flaps, but this furthest right one's going to be the red light saying, hey, you're getting too close to land. So that's going to be one of the last steps, is putting the light in there, but that's kind of a little sneak peek. So back to the plan here. This sensor comes with pins, or like you can see, you can plug this into like a breadboard. We don't need those. We're going to desolder those pins and solder these wires directly to the board, and then we're going to fit it into these custom 3D printed cases that allow the wires to flow straight up. Then we're going to cut this shape out of the bottom of the wing and hot glue it in the bottom so it's as far down on the plane as it can possibly get. We're going to glue that in, then we're going to wire this board to the sensor, and we're going to have a plug that's going to be able to come apart so that we can quickly remove things, or if you want to test, or if things break, it's easy to replace. But this all starts with a little bit of desoldering, and if you are nervous about the wiring of like how things go, I'll say once again, look at that Google Doc. It's got pictures of how things look right now, which is what I'm going to use to reference later when I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. But it's going to start with desoldering pretty much everything, because in the end, everything is going to be a lot more concise and easier to look at. So I'm just going to grab tweezers, a wire cutter. I'm going to turn on my soldering iron, which thankfully is no longer a really small soldering iron I could bring to the field. It's actually a really nice, heats up fast one. So let's see, make sure everything is looking smooth still. Looks like it. Cool. So as this turns on, I'm just going to go through and desolder these 4 pins. If you buy all of this stuff, you won't have to do this first step. This is just because I've already tested it. So all I'm going to do is be pretty quick and desolder here. And I'll say this also, disclaimer as I'm doing this, if you're watching the stream, this is not a how-to. This is just me figuring out how in the world to actually do this. In a couple weeks, there will be a how-to video, which is pretty much me taking these streams, compiling it down into a 15-20 minute video of the actual how-tos. So if you're watching this stream after we're all the way done, just know that I'm just trying to figure this out as we go as well. So there's no promises that this will be concise by any means, but eventually it will get done. I'm using this handy dandy hands. Great gift if you know someone in FPV. I'm not sponsored or anything. This was literally a gift for Christmas, and I've used it almost every single time I've done anything RC. So it's a great gift for those if you're looking for something. But I'm just trying to heat these pins up so I can pull them out. I wonder actually if you see on the back here, there's these little plastic black part that's holding them all in place. I wonder if I take a wire cutter and kind of pull them apart, I could take out all of these individually. And I should mention, why am I doing this? I 3D printed this case here, and this fits in really well, like super well. And I've got this back part, or this part that's going to screw in, and the wires are going to be soldered, and they should go through this hole. So having these pins here are just a little extra weight and a little extra space that we can save. So that's at least the goal here, to save a little weight when I can. So I think I'm going to take a little wire cutter, and try to cut this black plastic housing, just so I can remove the pins one by one instead of all at the same time. And I'm making sure not to cut any of the actual board here, because that would be real lame. But it's pretty easy, and you can see now they're all separated, and I can go through and desolder one at a time. hopefully at least. Also, feel free to ask any questions. It doesn't have to be related to this project because there will be a lot of time where I'm just doing something that might be a little repetitive. So feel free to ask questions or comment whatever you want. But here we go. Make sure it's in the camera. I'm just applying pressure to this top pin as I pull straight down to try to release this bottom pin. It's already moving. I wonder if it'll be easier to pull up, because all I need to do is just kind of yank it out. And if I put maybe this underneath to kind of prop it, and then I can pull straight down. There we go. There. So again, the strategy here is I have these hands that hold it in place, and then I'm using, doesn't have to be, they're just anything to give a little leverage, and then I'm heating up this top pin right here and pulling straight down, and you just pull the pin right out. So I'm going to repeat that process for the 3 other pins, and then we should be good to go. Okay, all 4 done. I'm gonna clean off the tip here. So that's pretty smooth. I'm gonna do one more step, which is, if you have it, great. If you don't, it's not a big deal. It's called, once I find it here, just a little bit of suspense as I find my old soldering bin. It is wick, as you can see here. I'm just going to clean up all of these pads and pull off any of the extra solder that might be on the board, just so I don't have any things going around. Let's see, warning, the stream is something or another. Hopefully it's still doing good. A lower bit rate. Well, I'm just going to let it roll and hopefully things clear up. If it's really choppy, please let me know and I'll try to fix things, but these are the settings I've been at for a few streams and they've been just fine. But the way to use this wick is to just lightly apply it onto the pads, and since this material just sucks away any of the extra tin, and we're just going to clean everything up. Alright, that should be just fine. I guess I'll pause here just until the stream kind of kicks back into place. Can I switch to the full desk? Yeah, I'll switch here and just wait a second just to make sure the quality returns. I don't know what happened to it. Let's see. Stream is lower than recommended. It says good connection. I wonder why it doesn't like it. Okay, stream is healthy. I don't know what happened, but hopefully everything is still fine. I'm going to clean up quick here because I always wait until way too long and the whole desk is messy. So we've got the sensor all cleaned up, and I can actually test this for the first time without pads on it. So we've got the board that fits in there really well, and then we got this top hatch, which I'm going to wire everything in, and that should fit in. I might need to sand it down a little bit. I guess that did fit in pretty snug. But you can see here, the wires are going to go from the pads on the edge. They're going to go in and then up. Okay, sweet. See clearly. Good. I don't know. Sometimes it just says the stream is like there's a warning or like maybe an issue, but it seems fine. But you can see here, this case is here to A, protect it, and B, It should fit into the wing, and I can hot glue all around it, and I can still remove the sensor if I need to. But that's at least the goal. So if I pop this out, we can see that everything is fit and fine. I might still sand this just a little bit on the edges so it's not quite as tight, but still pretty easy. So that's all we can do with this, at least for now. The next step is going to do pretty much the same thing to this board. The main reason is you can buy this board without these header pins. It was just at the time the only available one was to have header pins. I don't need header pins, so I'm just going to go remove them, which it might be annoying. It'll just take a little while, but it shouldn't be really anything different than what we just did. Another project I've had on my long list of things to try is an airspeed sensor. Yeah, I've actually seen an airspeed sensor too. I think that'd be really cool on especially a Corsair to have that. And with this board, I'll be able to, I've actually looked into airspeed sensors too, but I can connect that to this board and maybe display that via a small screen instead of a voltage display reader. So yeah, that's also on my to-do list eventually, is to get an airspeed sensor. So we'll keep that in the chamber too. But I'm going to go ahead and just start desoldering all of these wires and getting everything cleaned up in order to take all these pins off. Okay, so if you are just now buying this, or if you're watching this later and you just bought this board, you can start from right here. But what I'm going to do is take just like I did before, a wire cutters and cut in between each of these pins and then desolder them and pull them straight out. So this might take a little bit of time, but no big deal. I'm just going to go in like this, and I'll do a few of them close up, but other than that, it's just going to be pretty or a lot of repetition here. Cut and cut. So you can see I just cut them, so now that they're freestanding for the other ones, and then you can just poke down with your soldering iron right above, and hopefully that'll just pop it right out. And just like that, or almost just like that. That was still hot because it is short metal, but that's gonna be the process, just pulling them out one at a time. So we are gonna keep on rolling through. Make sure I'm not cutting anything else, but it should just be a pretty straightforward procedure here. And this is why I'm also going to recommend, if you do this, get a board without header pins. I mean, they might be helpful if you're doing like a big project and you need like a breadboard and stuff. For this, I am not. So this is just extra. You also actually save some money if you get a board without header pins. I think it costs like a few bucks less. That's one side all clipped, and you might be able to just pull off these little plastic bits. There we go. And so you got one off, but we got all the rest to go. So I'm just going to do the same on the other side, just to keep things rolling. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so pulling off the plastic pieces, and now it's up to the desoldering. let's see, I'll use the handy dandy hands again. And let's see, if I use this again, as something just to kind of prop it up, or maybe I find something that's not going to be immediately used. Let's see, maybe this. And again, the goal is just to push straight down and pull out the pin at the same time. I don't know why this one's being a nuisance. Show you if it, you know, that's something to kind of hold on the edge here. Flip it around. Take off these back pins so I can have something to kind of lean it up against. This ground pin is being so annoying. You have overstayed your welcome. Please leave. Okay. Keep flipping the board around so I can keep removing pins such that it'll rest easier up against this piece of tape. But just repeating the same process. That's one side done. Again, if you are doing this, be smarter than I was and just buy a board without pins on it, because then you're going to save all this hassle that I'm going through. But it's not a huge deal if you have to buy them with pins on. Back to this one ground pin that doesn't want to leave. make sure my full, yeah, okay, that's still working. We're gonna stay here for now, but it seems to shut off if it's not being used, which I don't know why. I've turned it to stay on, but gosh, once we are through this one ground pin, things are gonna just get a lot easier. But for whatever reason, it's just being a nuisance. Okay, I don't know why it's being so difficult. Okay, the pin right next to it went out easy. We grow up here. Oh, there we go. All right, and back on track. Okay, that is all of the pins desoldered, which, as you can see, is kind of a lot of them. But I'm going to throw these away because they have no use. I'll make sure they actually get in the trash because I don't want these just milling around. Okay. Done with that. I'm going to do a quick inspection to make sure I didn't do anything dumb. But I think we're just fine. So if you just bought the board without pins, you can now start here. You don't have to go through that whole process. But this is the little case I designed. As you can see here on the front, we do have our logo 3D printed right onto the top of this case. So that's kind of cool. But this board should hopefully fit in. It might need a little bit of filing, but it also should be a pretty tight fit. As you can see, oh yeah, that's just about perfect. And the goal of this board, or this case, is that I left a space, I guess, only at the front because this thing at the back is kind of big. But I can also just cut these a little bit wider if I need to. But if I push this on the top, it'll fit in the fuselage really nicely. There's no chance of things getting bumped around, and then I can still have wires coming out. I didn't even think about this huge back part, which will get in the way, but I might just cut the sides off and I'll update the Thingiverse file when the time comes. But in the meantime, I'm just going to take this back out. But that's at least looking really good. It fits in there really well. It's just that one little part being a nuisance, but it should look really cool with the logo on the front. So I'm going to quick clean things up just so that we can start fresh. This might be the part where we actually move to the full desk, because I've got to cut into the bottom part of the wing because the bottom and the top part screw together, and we are going to need to cut into the bottom of the wing in order to get the sensor into it. So we're going to move all these wires, soldering stuff, 3D print stuff, and I'll take the bottom wing off the wall. So here here we go. Now, there is a spot right here, which it's actually kind of a cutout already, and that is directly beneath the fuselage where you route all these wires straight up, which I've put a little like carabiner thing on there, or not carabiner, but a little wire harness just to keep everything out of the way. I might try to do something more official later, but at least for now, that's how I'm holding things. I wonder if I can actually zoom this top camera in a little bit. Wow, we go immediately really far zoomed in. Can I go somewhere in the middle? Well, that'll at least work, because you don't really need to see anything else except for what's happening right here. So there is holes around there, and I only want to cut exactly this size, or the size of the 3D printed part. I'm going to cut that right into this gap here, and actually I'm going to take this little wire thing out, so I can try to get these other wires as far away as possible, just so I can see things better, and hopefully you guys can see things better too. But as you can see, there's this little channel right here, and that's directly where the wires go straight up. So if you put our 3D printed part right in there, it fits really well, and that's, I guess, the whole goal, is to have things really tight. I'm going to move some lights in, hopefully make things easier to see. 1 second. Maybe that light will stay right there. But yeah, so as you can see, our 3D printed part fits in there really well, and I made it just the thickness of the that it should fit in there, so it should be a really tight fit. But I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife and try to just exactly cut this section out. And it's going to go all the way through to the bottom. Obviously, that's how our sensor is going to do readings from the bottom. And once I find my X-Acto knife, we'll be good to go. Knife in the room with us. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna just trace it out. I wonder what's the best. Should I push it up against the back? Yeah, I think that makes the most sense, because then we have a flat edge to work with, and then I'll cut into this rounded edge. So I'm going to try to hold this in place and keep my fingers out of the way as much as possible, both from the knife and from the camera. I'm going to hold it down so it's flat, and then just lightly cut into it so I got a good shape. And I'm just making very small cuts. I'm not going super deep right away because I don't want to mar the foam. But I'm just going straight down using the 3D printed part as a guide. Okay, and I'm going to just make one cut that hopefully goes all the way through. I apologize if you hate the sound of foam, but that's what we got. Okay, so that's one line in, and I'm just going to quick check on the other side. As you can see, we've got a cut right here. You may not be able to see, but it's going right across here, and it's going to go straight back, straight up. Should be just fine, and we're already out of the way of everything. So I'm going to continue using this 3D printed part as a guide. And it's okay if the first cut is a little too small, because that just means we're going to have to wiggle around the 3D printed part and it'll fit in even better. Yeah, we're going to keep just cutting away. Be very careful not to cut the wires, because that'd be really annoying. That should be the other side, and I'm going to go again to this side. Okay, looks like I've got 3 of the corners done, and I've just got this back part, which should be just this up against this flat back edge. Okay, so we've got it, I think, all cut out. Yep, looks like it. And I'm gonna make little cuts up and down just so I can get this piece out easier. I'm not trying to, like, you know, mar it out. But if I just make cuts right down the middle, it'll leave some tension in the foam. Okay, I'll use tweezers to just kind of pop it out. There we go, and now we've got a nice hole, and we got extra foam pieces. As you can see, those are probably just scrap, but the positive side is we've got this hole, which should just about perfectly fit our 3D printed part. As you can see, that fits in pretty well. I'll switch back to this cam just for a second, just so you can kind of see. Oops, sorry. Whoa. Yeah, you can just see that it fits in there really well. And it's going to, once we hot glue it, which is the plan, it should fit in there really snug. And the question of, are we going to lose any of our structural integrity? Hopefully not, because this will act as a little reinforcement for the foam we cut out. But yeah, that's at least the hopes and dreams of this project. And then to show off it in place, we're going to put this sensor in there. And if we flip to the other side, we can see that from the bottom, we have this sensor coming out. And we still have this little hole here, which may be ventilation, but either way, we've got it coming out. It should be reading straight down. But that's looking good. It'll sit flush against this base part. You can even round out the foam a little bit if you want even better, but it should fit just flat and flush against this, which is looking really good. So we can pop all this out, and I think the next step is just hot gluing it in, the case at least, which I should get that going. It'll take a few minutes, but I can prep other things. Okay, so that is looking really good. So what else? This is a great time to ask questions or comments if you have them, because I'm just going over plans. We're going to hot glue this case in. It should be somewhere in there, and we'll get it all smooth and looking good. And then we're going to, let's see. Then we're going to take the fuselage and actually attach the board onto where it's going to go, because then we can get how much wire we need. And then we can start wiring things together. And there are 4 wires that go from this sensor to the board here. And I've got a 4-pin connector, which is a JST XH3S LiPo, and I use this one specifically. Of course, link is in the Google Doc. But I use this one because A, we can plug and unplug it from each other. And so if you want to detach this for whatever reason, you can. It's really easy. But we're going to cut these in half and then get the exact right amount of wire to go from the board to this servo. And just going to jumble in with all these wires. So we're going to make that connection, and then we're going to route the LED from the board up into the cockpit, which is up here, and do that wiring. And also we're going to make that detachable via JST connector, because of course the battery hatch can come off from the fuselage, so that needs to be detachable, and this wing can come off from the fuselage, that needs to be detachable. But other than that, that should be just about all of our plans. for this stream. So things are going really well. We are only, what, 50 minutes in-ish? Which is about where I expected. I'm hoping this whole process takes about 2 hours, which is my goal. There's really an arbitrary goal. There's no real reason to, and I don't get anything if it's that long. But that's at least the goal. So, I wonder, is there anything else I can do while I'm waiting? Probably not. Looks like the hot glue gun's already almost there. I guess I should have this flipped around for this part because I want to line it up on the bottom more than I want to line it up on the top. Or like I want this to be flush here because then we are going to get the best angles out of it. I wonder if I could have 3D printed it a little bit better. Not, well, maybe. You can always do better, but I think it's pretty slick the way it is. Or at least flush with everything. But yeah, I'm liking how it's looking, and then I'll just hot glue this in and set it in place and then make sure everything is nice and tucked in. And there's not going to be any, well, there's probably a little bit more drag, but the sensor butts up right against this flat edge, so it should all be smooth across. We should be pretty good to go. Which I'm excited for, because this plane is held up a lot. You can see all the glue marks from where things have gone wrong in the past. Yeah, there's a lot of things I want to add to this plane, because it is cool. But yeah, if you have any questions or comments or ideas or just anything you want to say, feel free to put it in the chat, because I do like reading them as I go. But it looks like the hot glue gun is just about ready. So I'm going to apply just a nice amount around the edge here to all edges, and then I'm just going to sink it straight in. And then I'm going to be quick with I have a piece of foam. Oh yeah, I do. I've got these pieces of foam that I just cut out, and I'm going to cut these a little bit thinner so I can have things to wipe the hot glue away with. So look at that, reduce, reuse, recycle, use every part of the foam. So I've just got little wedges I can just kind of scrape around the edge. Okay. So I'll go from this, well, is top angle better? Maybe, that's actually a really nice view of it. Okay, cool. So, again, hot glue, fit it in there, make sure it's flat, we'll be good to go. So, get all this extra hot glue out of here. And of course it is hot, so don't touch it like somebody just did. Now I've got the strings everywhere. Golly. Okay. So it's also PLA. So I don't want to apply a super ton of hot glue just in case something froggy happens, but I'm going to pinch my fingers into the ultrasonic sensor so I can get hot glue on all sides, and I'll just pop it right in. Let's see, if I go on if I put it on the top side, let's see, if I put it on the top side, as I push it in, it'll smear down the whole face. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, and then just pop it in. Okay, and I'm trying to be quick to make sure it doesn't set in the wrong place, but that should be good. Nice. Well, so you can see that's sitting right in there. I tried to line it up so it's flat. If you just run your finger along from there, it's pretty flat. And then that's the end of that thought. I'm not going to add any extra on this side just because it might kind of gum it up a little bit. And I think it's going to be pretty firm in there. If we flip to the other side, you can see that we are still in a good position. And the reason that the walls are a bunch higher than the bottom is because the walls now rest up exactly to the bottom of this, so it's all still looking really smooth and not like kind of hacked together. But look at that. That is in there. It's not going anywhere. And as long as this still fits, and there's a little silver part right here, that fits into the casing as well. And oh yeah, that's in there really nice. And then you can just poke it through the top. Nice. That's really good. So I said the next step is taking the fuselage. So I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to put this on the floor for just a minute. Oh, good close shot of the hot glue gun. Good, good. I'm going to put the wing on the floor and get the fuselage. Ooh. Okay. So we might be going back to the top view because we're going to find out where to actually mount our little case here. And maybe we'll stick, let's see, how does top view look? We'll figure it out. iPhone to start, which I'll raise this up a little bit if I can and try to get it over the edge. So bear with me as I change around my setup a little bit. Okay, how are we looking now? A little bit better. Goal is to kind of zoom this in on the back wall. Get all these wires out of the way. I'm going to tuck these underneath for now, just so we have a clean viewing experience. Okay, so as you can see, we've got ample space in this wall right here, which I think is where I want to mount it, because then all of the wires from the canopy, as you can see here, once these fit in, they're all coming down right about here anyways, so might as well throw a few more wires in. And then also, once we have the wire coming from, or like the on-off light will come down, it'll go under here, it'll route straight through this with all the rest of the wires, and then it's going to come down here, and that's a pretty short junction from the receiver, or like this area, straight down. So I think I'm going to mount it right in here. And if we get our board, I'm going to take the actual board out for a second just so we can kind of gauge. Mount it in the wall here, I think. Maybe if I could maybe mount it flat. No, flat would be tough because I've got these little side pins, as you can see, that actually clip onto it. So if I mount it somewhere like this up in the wall, then I'll actually be able to remove it. I could also just like double-sided tape it in there, and worst case scenario, just like take it out. But I think that's where I'm going to put it. There. I'm trying to just think, is that any better? Probably this. If you have thoughts or opinions, please let me know. But I think I'm going to go right there for now. Although that is kind of facing, they're sloped down. It's sloping away in this back wall. Is there any other better obvious places? I kind of like this area too because it's out of the way. Like the battery goes until here, the wires kind of start here, but there's nothing up against this wall. I don't think this will affect center of gravity all that much. I mean, it won't. It's a big enough plane where I've got enough going on. And then the battery itself is going to go up right next to the main battery because I'm going to have one of the batteries. I have two of these in the plane. One of them is for the secondary receiver. One of them is then for the Arduino board, just so everything has its own separate power source. I'm not asking too much out of the normal battery, so that should be fine. I'm still thinking right about here will be our best bet. I could probably 3D print if I make updates to this. I'll probably add a little wedge to the back of this so that it'll sit flat, but in the meantime I'll just double-sided tape and we'll be just fine. Let's see, is there any reason to have it one way or another in there? Not really, because it's just the wiring we're worried about. Let's see, what else? Well, I'll go ahead with putting it right here, and then just put a little maybe extra piece of double-sided tape just so that it stays flat. Not that that really matters again, but personal preference. And we're going to need the exact distance. The reason I didn't like pre-wire any of this is because I wanted to get exact distances on the wires just for cable management's sake. I don't want a bunch of extra wires running around, especially if we have the time to actually think about it now. Might as well make it look good. But I will most likely end up removing this initial piece of double-sided tape. But nevertheless, I'll give it a shot. My scissors are, of course, just disappeared. But we have tools. So get this just the right distance. Okay. And we'll put this here. And this is what I'm doing. I'm putting, this tape is bigger than this box, but I'm just going to put it all the way to the bottom and then fold this piece over so get that little wedge to give a little extra distance. Gross, a hair. All right, well, that's just going to go right here. So as you can see, that fits in there. Then our board is going to fit in there, which will have a cap in it. And then the wires will be running out of either end just to get everything out. So that's looking just fine. Actually, now that I put it in there, I remember I was going to cut the ends off so I have more space to run wires. So I'm going to remove that quick. So what I'm doing here, I might update the Thingiverse file, but if not, all I'm doing is cutting off the ends here. Or I wonder if it'll be fine if I just run the wires out the front. Either way, it's a little tighter than what I would have liked. And I could run the wires like up or down, but I kind of want to run them straight out. I think that'll just look the cleanest. So I'm going to cut the sides here, just so we've got more space for wires. There we go. So that is good. That's also on the quote backside for this double-sided tape. Should really put even more, but that's going to go there. I'll put it a little away from this bar, as you can see, just so I have room to get the wires through. And they'll come out here, and then some of them will go straight down, and some of them will go up to the plane. I think we actually might need to assemble the plane for this next step, just so I can see exact distances on where to put wires. So I'm going to switch to full desk and actually zoom out on the full desk. So you can see everything. And get this light out of the way. I'm going to clean up here just for a second so I can get the full wing on the table without really ruining things. Okay. So I'll even put this on the top for now. Well, actually no, because we're going to put the wing on. So this is going to be fun on a small table. Move my chair away. And we're going to route all of these wires up and through, which that alone is going to be annoying. But we got to see how much space we actually have for all of these little additions here. The really long wire, which is for the guns, and then all of the other wires should follow suit, hopefully. Okay, I'm going to clip it in place as if we were going to go fly, but we're not actually going to screw it in because I don't think that's necessary. But if we get this up here, just hopefully so you guys can kind of see what I'm trying to do. That's gonna be a fun soldering process. But the goal here is to see down. I actually got a flashlight, but down in there with zoom. So in here, specifically down here, that's where the board is going. And so I've got to get the wiring from this board. And again, we've got, see these 4 pins at the top here. Those are going to go straight up and then to the board on this side. So we don't want a whole extra bunch of wires, but we for sure don't want not enough, because believe it or not, that's going to be even more annoying. I wonder if the wires that we had before would be long enough. Ooh, they might actually be long enough. But we also have to go through this connector so that we can detach everything if we need to take the wing off. So I wonder if we cut this in half, if that'll just be enough, because that would actually be really handy. And do I want to have one side closer? Or like, I could cut this wire right in the middle and have it equally coming out of the front and back, or do I want to have it closer to one side so that when I take the wing off there's more wires and it's cleaner up here? Maybe I do that. I'll cut it more towards one side so that the side that's attached to the Arduino, when the wing's off, there's not a whole ton of dangling wires, there's just a little bit. And it'll hang off, you know, over to here instead of it being super dangly. So I'm going to cut maybe 2 inches down this wire, as you can see. And I'm going to take the plane back off because we're going to have to do some soldering, which requires a little less precise stuff here. So plane's going back on the floor for now. If there's space. Okay. So we're back here, and I'm going to iPhone camera. That should be fine. I'm going to cut this end just at maybe like 2 inches ish, and that's where we're going to do the soldering. So wire cutters here. And then we're going to strip these wires and then solder them to the board, although the board's ports are deeper than that. And what I mean by that is some of the ports that we're coming from are pretty deep, and so by me cutting it that short, I might have to have the longer side. Okay, well, in this case, either way, we're going to have to add extensions because we don't have that much extra wire. So I guess I'll just add extensions to this side, the shoulder side, and then I will have this side kind of stick out like a little bit more. So that's a little oversight when I cut it. This would be crazy when you get it to work. Next, need to add a little air temperature sensor and a motor temperature. Yeah, that would be really cool. And if I could display it all via this Arduino board onto a little screen, that'd be pretty cool. But actually, do I want the plug side to be, does that really matter? Oh, it doesn't matter, but do I have a preference? Not really. So I've got these wires here. And another thing, I've got to remember what side they go to on the other side. So I'm actually going to pull up my own Google Doc just so I can see the wiring of how things should be looking. Okay. So I'll treat red as red. And then every other wire will be like that. So it'll be red. Looks like red, yellow, white, black, like this. So if I want it to stick out, board goes like this. I need the hands to actually keep it in place. Or I'll take a little bit of double-sided tape just to keep it in place. And I can actually zoom this, well, that'll be fine. So again, feel free to check out that Google Doc if you want to know what the exact wiring is, because it's kind of hard to show it on the live stream. But if I get the wires, or at least if I want it to stick out this way just a little bit, it looks like the wires are gonna have to go from here back on this ground, as well as this side. Actually, no, that looks like what we're gonna have to do, which is not a big deal. But we're gonna have it sit as if it's right here. So I'm gonna actually double-sided tape this too, just so I can make sure we're not getting different lengths of things. So this is saying I want the wire to stick out this much, so that I can just leave it sitting here. I wonder, are those wires going to be able to pass underneath? That should be fine, actually. So we've got the first red wire, which should be going back. I'm just going to like triple check to make sure that I'm not accidentally soldering things incorrectly. Let's look at the picture I took earlier. Keep zooming in. Is that really as far as I can go? Sorry, I'm just pulling up the picture on my second screen here. Okay, so red wire from the sensor goes to, looks like the second from the top here, because it's right, or one from the end. So the reason, again, I stuck it down here is because I can get all these other wires out of the way, and I can get the exact distance to this wire here. And so then is it, again, second from the top, which should be the 3.3 volt pad. And if I cut it just the right length, I'll give it a little extra, and then I'll strip the end. I really don't need a whole lot here. And then we can solder it right to there, and we will be off and rolling. Once at least this gets turned on. I wonder if I can zoom in this camera at all. Or at least I will move the camera back down so you guys get a better view of what I'm doing here. Closer look at what I'm doing. So I've got everything stuck down, and I'm going to just start soldering things directly to where they need to be on the board, hopefully saving as much space as possible. So I'm just going to flux it, as well as flux the pad it's going to. Okay, and then just take my tweezers and bend it right in there. It should be coming in from the top here. I don't want to kink the wire, but I do want to bend it. See, it got it coming in like across the whole board. That way we can optimize our space as much as we can. Although, did I give it too much wire? That'll be fine. I might try to flatten this actually so that it's sitting across the pad. Okay, cool. And next wire, the wire next to red looks like yellow. Yellow goes to the pad that is 1, 2, 3, 4th from the top. So this wire is going to go. I can't grab it. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4th from the top. So it's gonna go straight up and then this way. So again, I'm going to cut it. We actually use these wires as the extensions on the other side, potentially. But again, 1, 2, 3, 4th from the top is yellow. Yellow is the second wire. Second wire is good. And so, just the same process of stripping. Stripping and tinning. One, two, three, 4. And we're just going to lay this wire in. Oh, wait, did I cut the wrong wire? How is that possible? Okay. Where does the 4th wire go? 4th wire is black. Black is going, okay, good. I got lucky there. 4th wire is going even shorter, but for whatever reason, I was just looking at the wrong wire the whole time. Okay, well, we're going to take the second wire, which again is the yellow wire on my picture, and that's going to the 4th from the top. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, bend that around the corner. Okay, so this time we've got the correct wire going to the correct spot. It should be 4th from the top. Okay, that should be 2 wires in. And then we've got the 3rd wire is white, which goes to the 3rd section, which is right above it. Okay, and one last one. Or I guess we got 2 more, but all right. I should tin up this side anyways. Okay, that should be 3 wires in, and then like I said before, the lucky part was this fourth wire, which is the black wire, actually goes to the this little white pad on the bottom here, and that's even shorter. So I got lucky. That should go. Is that the only one? No, there's two pads that go to this black or this ground pad. So I can cut that just the right length. Hopefully you can still see everything, and my hand's not been in the way. Or it's kind of far away anyways, but that's what we got. Okay. Okay, and I don't want any extra solder like I've got here, kind of big old gob of it. I don't really want that. I just want just enough. Or I guess it's not the end of the world. Actually, I do have to keep it inside because of the case. Let's just take the wick again and just really cut back on the amount of solder I have. There we go. We will start again, hopefully this time with less solder on our joint. There we go. And this should just go straight down. This must have been the ground pad that was just being annoying earlier, because it is just continuing to be a nuisance here. Okay, ground pad is in. Okay, so that is the wiring that is specifically going to connect to the ultrasonic sensor. And so I'm going to connect the other wires quick here as well, because I guess it makes more sense that I'll do it at once rather than have it all spread out. Or does it? Because I could just go one at a time and get things figured out. I guess I'll do that. We'll complete the ultrasonic sensor part first, and then we'll go back and keep doing one full chunk at a time. But as you can see here, we've got everything, let's get it off of, stuck down. Wow. Okay. But we've got all of our wiring straight through and through this one side, which is where the gap in the case is. And I can also cut more of the case off to make the wires fit, but all of these wires are this exact distance away, so that's how much extra wiring we're going to have. And then we're going to find the length from the sensor up through and how much space we're actually going to need, which will require some extensions, I'm guessing, because this, of course, is not long enough, but we do need a little extra space. So I'm going to keep moving things around. Wires. Okay, so if we get our plane back on the table, or actually we're just gonna need more wires anyway. So where are those 4 wires I desoldered from the board, the different colored ones? Because those are actually going to be kind of helpful. We've got yellow, white, red, and black. So we're going to actually resolder them onto this board, but this time we're going to do it in a way that's that'll actually follow the board. So what that means is the hole for this Arduino board is going to be kind of inside and up. So we're going to solder it just like that. And I'm just going to tin up this board. Let's see, I'll make it so you can actually see it instead of just my arm the whole time. Something like this. Sorry for the crazy camera work, but we're just going to tin up all of these different sides, or all these pins, just so that they're ready to get the wires. Okay, so again, I'm going to wire this exactly like I had it before, so I'm not mixing up wiring. Let's see, the ground is of course red, so let's start with that. I'm going to try to get the least amount of spare wire, and we're going to go inside. So what that means is instead of having the wires go kind of out and up, they're going to go inside, so they all lay like this across. So what's the easiest way to do? It's going to be like this, and then wiring it kind of like that. So it should be just like alright, that one was annoying. And tweezers, because it's getting hot. Okay. It's red, and then so red, then yellow. Again, no reason to do it in any other order. So yellow. Okay, red, then yellow, then we've got white. Okay, and lastly we got black, I assume. Checking the map, yep, black is last. That should hopefully be easy. I'll just hold all of these and then try to get them as flat as I can. Just so they're all straight across and down. So as you can see, we got some nice wiring here, and we're just doing a little visual inspection, make sure there's no solder that's being bridged anywhere. And that looks just fine, and then they're going to come up through this housing here. So you can see all these wires are going to come out, and then, ooh, I should, if there is a connector on this side, it won't be able to fit out of this hole. Is that a problem? Not really, because if I need to do some work on the board, I can just take out, or I can unscrew it. Okay, So that's that part. Then we're actually going to need the whole plane. So I'm going to turn the soldering iron off just to not accidentally burn myself. Move all this out of the way. And we're going to go back to the plane. So we have the whole plane with us. And what we really want is take this, and I'm going to align again this little silver part in with the rest of the plane, which is hard to see. But we've got the silver part is facing the top. Good. So then if I go, I've got to get these wires out of the way, which I can also do just via just removing this, or at least moving it to the side of it. I'll take it all the way off. But let's see, peel all these wires back. Now this sensor fits in here, and I could even go a step further and screw in the top just so it's completely installed. But then I want to solder to these wires, which will be annoying. So that's that. Now I'll just put all these wires through so we can see how much more we need. It might not be a whole lot. I might just have to solder it straight to these wires and we'll be good. But I want to make sure. I don't want to just haphazardly solder and have it come back to bite me in the end. So put these through. This is also why I had that little wire guard, is because there's so many wires with the gun lights and with the this ultrasonic sensor just on top of all the other wires. There's so much going through this port, which I could probably widen it, but like they're fine once it's in. It's just annoying once before that. So actually, let's see if I secure this in a little bit better so that I can't pull it out. The idea is that it's completely out of the way of everything else. And I'm going to put this on like this. Let's go like this. All I'm doing is putting the wires through this little hole in the top and filtering it down. And we're going back on top. Now we can secure that. I'm not going to screw it in yet, but I'll just pop it in so that it's secure. And you can see that the sensor is like completely hidden in there, so it's not going nowhere. But then I can pull these wires through. I wonder if it's easier if I just give it a painter's tape little latch. What I'm going to do is just put these together, and then I can pull them all through at the same time, and they're not going to go everywhere. Okay, there we go, makeshift connector. And then to fire all of these through, including our tape connector. Okay. Is that going on smooth? I believe so. Am I missing any wires? Oh yeah. Okay, now it's sitting flush, and all these wires are going to be out of the way, or at least this way. And then we want our tape wire to just come up. Oh, that actually might be perfect. That I have just this little chunk remaining. If I solder that onto, I'm gonna take this off now. If I solder that onto here, and then we have our board, which already has a little bit slack built in, that could be really good actually. Okay, sweet. I'm glad that worked out like that. And now to just disassemble everything again, because now that I can confirm that things look good. put everything back on the floor. Except for we need this out here again. Okay. Hello, Mr. James Turncliffe. Glad you're back. You are near the tail end, or maybe the midpoint, but we've got some good progress done so far. We've got ultrasonic sensor, which is going to connect to this Arduino board, and that's going to turn on and off this little LED light, which is then going to be routed into the dashboard of the head tracker. So on this far right light port, that is where we're going to put the distance meter to say, hey, you're getting too close to the ground, or just, hey, you're getting close to the ground. So you can do what you want with that information. But we have got a lot of good progress done. We've already glued in the ultrasonic sensor port, so that's already in the plane. Now we are just making the connections from the ultrasonic sensor to this board, which is able to be unplugged in case you want to remove things. But their progress is actually going really well so far. So I'm excited about that. And next step is going to be soldering this connector onto these wires. Oop, can't see that. Is this connector onto these wires so we can plug it into the board. And so with that being said, I do have to put this, like the back plate on there before we solder, because of course this port does not, it's like just too small, which again, if I were to make a V2 of this, I just make this hole bigger so I can fit this port through, but in the meantime, not really a big deal. I'll take a quick drink of water here because it's been an hour and 40 minutes. And we're back at it again. We are going to need some heat shrink here. So being the professional I am, I actually got it out already. So we are going to, again, follow the diagram on Google Docs for all the parts, or like the actual location of all these, the wiring, because that'd be real lame to mess that part up. But I'm just going to tin and prep all of these wires like we've been doing this whole time. I'm going to actually back this camera up so it's not as close. I'm going to get the soldering iron back out. And this part should be pretty routine. All right, strip those. We're going to get a bit of heat shrink. I'm going to take 2 and cut them in half, just because I'd rather have more heat shrink on these parts than not enough. Heat shrink and more heat shrink. And prepping these wires. And I'm going to pull up again the wiring diagram, just because I've treated this, the red wire, as the red wire from the diagram, which is the red wire on the ultrasonic sensor. So we'll go red to red, and then we're just going to work our way down the line on getting those in. I'm going to use the handy dandy hands, the perfect application for this. I'm actually first going to put on all of the heat shrink, just so it's on there first, and we're not going to accidentally solder and then have to desolder. Okay, heat shrink is on, and we are going to hold these in place. Let's see if I'm left-handed. I'm going to want these wires to be like this. Pulling the red in place for the red, which I'm putting on this side. Actually, I have to prep these wires. Spray these wires out. Some of these wires have just a few strands. Okay, that look good. So we're going to go back and continue to connect everything together. Start with just the red wire. Let's see. I might be able to just hold this wire. Yeah, okay. It's not my tweezers. There's my tweezers. Okay. And of course it's right in the way. Let's see, make sure we've got a good angle here. So we're gonna go here. And it's just a matter of a lot of really small soldering. So I know that's everybody's favorite. Okay, that should be one really bad solder. Still not stoked with that one. Maybe it just needs more tin and flux. Okay, there we go. That's better. So the red goes to the red. That's the easy one. Next we have the second wire is yellow. So second wire is yellow. Just double and triple checking before something gets froggy. So we're gonna just hold it there. Bend all the other. I think I did this in the wrong order. I really should have worked my way. Actually, we'll just fix it like this. Red's on that side now, and we're going to work our way in, so I'm not soldering over the other wires I've just soldered. But we're going to get that there, that here. Just my hand's in the way. Oh yeah, completely in the way. So I'm going to go here. That one went through a lot smoother. Now that it's stuck. Yeah, that one's really good. Okay, third wire is white. We're gonna attach that to the third wire. Try not to, or also to not like overlap these a whole bunch. So bring this under and under. Just so we've got nice, clean stuff to work with. Okay, so we got that in place. We got just 2 more wires to go. Are these wires the same length? I didn't even think about that. Yep, they are. Nice. Okay, so white wire, which is going to be all... Again, I'm just detangling these so that they're all sitting flat once we're done, and I don't have like an accidental overlap, which I can't do anything about because that'd just bother me more than anything else. So we're going to go here, a little more tin and flux, just so everything flows well. That one was really smooth. Okay, and then last but not least is the black wire, which is the 4th, which should connect all up. And make sure my hands aren't in the way. Okay, I'm gonna get more tin flux. Okay, I think those are good. Just a quick note, that ground one is really bad actually. Okay, well that's why we test, so we don't accidentally leave ourselves with a really cold joint. So we'll just try to fix that by more heat. Let it soak on through. Might be better. Okay, it's still on the bottom. It'd probably be fine, but since I'm here, I'm just gonna keep going through until it's a good solid joint. Because if this all is said and done and it's wrecked by a bad solder job, that's my fault. Yep, looking at all of them, they all look pretty solid. So then we can just apply a little bit of heat shrink, or at least heat up the heat shrink, so that these all stay protected. And that should be all set. Yeah. We'll plug in the overpowered hair dryer here. Oh, it's already plugged in. Well, geez, I'm pretty professional. Sorry about that. But let's see, that might be all the soldering we need for at least right now, so I'll turn that off. And I'm also going to just twist these wires together so that they all stay, combined. They're not all flowing around the place. Alright, so all I'm doing is just twisting this wire together. A, because it makes it look really nice, but B, it keeps all these wires together so we're not like dealing with 4 strands that all kind of come together and spread apart and then come back. So yeah, this should connect then to this connector, like that, and then we still get signal and everything from the ultrasonic sensor to the Arduino board. So I'm going to do the same process of cleaning up, getting the plane back out here, and then we'll see how well it actually fits into the plane. So go back to full. Alright, so here's our sensor. I'll get the wing. Okay, so we've got our sensor going in. Come on, you. Right, then you got our backboard. Okay, so that's in there, looking good. And then we just got to get the wires through the fuselage and actually put this through. Then all the wires. Okay, got the wires pulled through. I know it's sitting on one of them because it's not quite sitting flat as it should. Oh yeah, there it is. This is the gun lights. Okay, there we go. Now we're sitting pretty here. And as you can see, or maybe you can't see, phone up in this back area. That's also not super helpful. Let's see, how could I do better here? I've got a small tripod somewhere, but pretty much, yeah, I'll just put up this tripod again. Okay, there we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay. So as you can see, this is where our board is going to be sitting. Actually, I have it right here. So I'm going to show you even better detail. So our board is going to be sitting within this case, and we've got the wires going forward, so you can see if I get all this other junk out of the way. So if we were to plug this in, this would actually sit in, and we would have more than expected actually. I wonder if we route the wires like this, would it be better? Keeping things clean at least. Yeah, maybe that'll be better. If I put it through this back end, and then all the wires will stay out of the way. Okay, cool. I like that. And then we only have to deal with the lights coming from the LED. Cool. So I'm going to keep plugging along. And then the battery wires can come straight ahead. Yeah, that'll look good. Cool. Things are looking good. So we have to plug in still the LED lights, which I guess I can do now because well, let's see. Actually, I've also got to do the battery hatch. So if I have this is actually going to be facing the other way, I'm actually going to cut off both sides of this. So now I'm going to cut off these opening ends too. So in the end, 3D print just shouldn't have these front walls, which were only there just to make it look a little bit cleaner. But I'd rather have the wires flow better than have it look a little bit cleaner. Although it still looks just fine. So if they're going to go here, and then this is going to fit in like this, which it does fit in really well, which I'm very proud of, that it fits in so snugly. And then, that's actually a good question. If I have all these wires going that way, would it make more sense to have these wires just flow the other way across? Maybe it would make more sense to do that, but let's see, I've got just 2 more wires I have to flow through. So if it's sitting like this, and I've got to have this XT30 wire that goes to the 2-cell battery, and that all it has to go is like right about here, because the battery's going to sit right next to the 4-cell battery. So if I just get it to there, which means pretty much if I just, let's see, actually, if I put in a 4-cell battery, which I happen to have one here, if I put in a 4-cell battery here, is there space directly next to it? Yes. And if there's the same one on the other side, I should just find that battery quick. Okay, there we go. So there's going to be one 2-cell battery for the receiver, and the other 2-cell battery is going to be for the secondary receiver. And yeah, those fit right next to it. So we're going to have a lot of nose weight, which can obviously be adjusted just by moving these around. But that also means our XT30 connector only has to go this far, which I'll just put this whole connector in, which is actually really handy. But I will take the board out, and then the plane will go back on the ground. How is the CG with the setup? How are you making sure you aren't changing too much? That's a great question. Pretty much, I am just going to be moving that 4-cell battery forwards or backwards. I think that's got enough weight to really impact or like bring it back a little bit. The sensor I think is a little further back in the center of gravity, so that should kind of counteract how many batteries are in the front. I could also just move a battery to the back, or one of those little batteries, if things are more difficult to deal with. But I think it should still handle just fine with the extra battery setup. I mean, I'm also going to test that once I get everything in. I'm going to make sure it's still balanced, and if not, I'll rotate things around. But I think in the meantime, it should still work just fine. So we'll be back here. So we have the, let's see if I get the pictures back up. These bottom two right over here are the power wires. Now, if I would have really considered where these wires are going to be going, it probably would have made more sense to have these wires like rotated 180 and coming out this side, and then the power come out the other side. But I don't think it'll matter too much. I could even do this, because these are going to be coming out from the back. This, the power wires. Actually, are they coming out? Check the Google Doc again to make sure. They're coming out from this side. Yeah, they're coming out from these bottom two. So I could really just run it straight up the gut like that. So they're coming out the front. All right, that'll still be fine. Yeah, a nose heavy plane flies poorly, a tail heavy plane flies once. I do know all about that. Check out the IA Evo just for a great example of that mantra. But yeah, I suppose I will have to just make sure that it's all CG'd out before I take it up into the air. But that being said, we've got just a few more things to do on this board side before we get into the canopy. So we can keep powering through. The white pad is the ground, as I've said a few times, but more specifically, the first pad is power, the second pad is ground. So if I lay this down, I just want to see, oh, I should also add heat shrink, which we actually have red and black heat shrink that I can use, and I'll make it look clean. So I've got this, a little bit of that. Heat shrink. Okay, and we're just going to add this all the way on the bottom. I'm going to quickly heat shrink that down just so we are starting from solid place here. Yeah, I also like the intro to the IA Evo. That's one of my favorites of all time. That IA Evo actually is going to be a good litmus test to see if I actually learned from my previous mistakes and not making a custom plane that's just so poorly not balanced. So hopefully yes, I learned my lesson. Will I? I don't know. Maybe. But again, this on this board, the furthest bottom pad is power, and then the one right above it is ground. So I'm going to try to have these go straight up as much as I can, so which means I'm going to lay these flat, make sure that's the right length, and then cut the ground wire according to that distance. But I'm going to turn the soldering iron back on. And geez, talk about the production value of that IA Evo. Geez, off the charts. But as we keep on rolling here, that should be... I also am getting down to the very end of my tin. I've got like none left. So I'm scraping by here, but we'll survive. It's not at all what you can see. And then I'm just tinning up and prepping these two pads here. That was going so well. Why did it just bubble over? Okay. Okay, so we're going to get the red wire in first. We're trying to get it out of the way as much as I can, because if I don't, then this black wire is going to be really difficult to fit in. So I'm just going to kind of bend this wire, not crimping it, but just trying to get a little angle on it. Even that's too much, because I've got to fit it in as well as I can here. So I'm going to have this wire go down. Okay. Oh, I had it and then I did too much and now it flowed out. Alright, double-sided tape coming back because it's being annoying again. You to stay in place so I can get this wire in. Red wire's in. The only downside is it's really close to where the black wire has to be, which just means I'm going to try to move this now, and in doing so completely wreck it. And the double-sided tape comes up, great. So that's going to try to route like that. And I'm trying to fit this black wire right in with it, but it has to be a little bit shorter. Come on, double-sided tape. You had one job. Did I put it also right into a puddle of flux so it couldn't stick anyways? Yes. Okay, so if this wire is coming straight out, I want the black wire to follow the red and then peel off just a little bit early. So I'll just cut it down a hair. That, then strip. Okay, this is getting a little silly now. Really? There, good Lord. Didn't know why that was being such a pain, but no worries. Just get that all flowy. I'm going to trim a little bit of this off just so we have just the exact right amount of wire needed. Do I have any that it's trying to grab onto? I don't think so. Okay, now we got some wire here, and that's just completely covered. Okay, I think that looks good. And then these wires are just going to flow straight up, and these wires are going to go out like that. And that should be our full system. Now we just have the LED lights left to solder onto this, and I guess I can do that right now as well. And I'll just make it exactly the same length of this adapter so that there's not a whole lot that we're doing extra here. So I've got a JST connector, because the LED only needs 2 wires. So I've got just a pack of JSTs here. One of those. We are going to need a male and a female end. Okay, so I've been doing female on this side, female on this side. I'll continue that with JST. If I look at the reference again, the LED looks like it's coming off of this ground and some other connector. Oh, it's right below. Okay, so there's a pad, or the third down. I keep explaining it. Look at the Google Doc for the exact wiring, but I'm connecting the LED to this JST connector in short, so I can get this all plugged out, and I'm just going to make it the exact same length as this adapter here. So I'm going to move this keep on double-sided taping it down, and then it doesn't move when I want it to, and it moves when I don't. So then I'm going to do the same thing for the JST side. So make sure everything stays the right length. So if that's here, I want that also to be right about there. And then this is going to sit here, right next to it. And then we can cut ground to ground right about here. Is this going to be as annoying as the last time? You know what? I will cut these to the right length and then I'll just take them out and solder them in. So that's there, and we can, let me just double check. That goes to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm just gonna cut that again to the right length. Okay, so I'm then gonna remove this and then strip all the wires. I don't know if you can see that, but there we go. Only I had an actual stripper. This would probably make wire stripper, that is, an actual wire stripper. FBI agent, relax. Okay, so I'm just going to solder these up. Okay, so red has to go up there, which is right in the way. So red is going to this 5th pad. Is this any easier to see? Maybe. It's not even that this wiring is hard, it's just these wires are so stiff they don't want to like bend towards the pad. Okay, red is on, and then last we've got just this black wire, which is going to the same black or the same ground as the other wire, so it should hopefully already be kind of tinned and ready to go. Now can I get it to actually go the right way and get out of the red way? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's our board all soldered up. We now have the LED light coming out of there, and we've got the power to the ultrasonic sensor as well as the power to the board, and this might fit underneath the cap. We will see. If not, so be it. We'll make it work. But in the meantime, this is what our board should look like. Just a whole lot going on. Probably could be, if you really wanted to cable management it, you could probably make it look a little bit better, but I think it should be looking pretty smooth. I can actually test to see if it'll fit in the box. Here is the box. I'll turn soldering iron off for now because I don't think we'll need it until we solder up the wire, obviously. But we got that in here, and that still fits really snug, which is nice. And then the cap is up here, and again we've got this our logo on it. Designed it myself, but if that goes right on here, that squishing out at all? No. There, and haha, there we go. It does clip on just like that. So our board is going to be sitting in there like that. We've got wires coming out for the adapter on this side. It does look a little tight. So I probably could have made these clips like two in each corner. But for V1, I think this looks really good. And you can also just take it out by just pressing it through and it'll pop off. But yeah, that is really nice. I wonder if it fits really snug, but it's kind of bowing out. I wonder if that's because there might be some solder joints that are just wider than the space we have, so it's kind of making it splay out. But that's still looking really nice. I'll just leave this clipped on because I think it looks cool. Let's see if this, actually I got it, it'll be like this, which I don't have to flip it. Like this, I'll pop this on the front. There, so now we got our little box going. So you can see logo, this wires will go to the battery, these will go back to the LED and the ultrasonic sensor. I wonder if we can test this at all. No, because our LED is unfortunately not connected up yet, but that is our next step. So I'll clear out a little bit once again, and this time we only need the ultrasonic or the fuselage. Alright, so we've got this puppy. We might have to go to full desk cam. So, what we need to do here is a few things. We need to route and glue this LED into the cockpit, which means it has to go through here all the way down, and then have an adapter from here go down through, because it's got to go here, down through here, all the way out, and that's where the adapter will connect. Now, if I'm lucky, we're just going to need this wire plus this adapter length, and that should be enough. Now, the question is, am I lucky? Because this wire go through here. Oh, that might be enough. Yeah, I think we're going to get lucky here. So I guess we don't actually need the fuselage yet, because we have to do all this internally. And now, if you buy the LEDs here, they already have a little resistor built in. As you can see, it's kind of heat shrunk like that. I might go at some point and add another resistor so it's not as bright, but I kind of think it's fun to have the red warning light be super bright compared to all the other lights to say like, hey, watch out. But we're gonna keep rolling here, and the fun part about this hatch, magnet detachable, makes it really easy to work on it, which actually was the whole point, was to make this super easy to work on, because I knew I was going to. As you can see, I didn't glue or do anything to this front part, so you can just kind of pull it out and expose there's a channel that goes from the front here all the way down to this gap, which is right here. So the way I've done it before is you take well, I'll first just try to push it through. Maybe we'll get, I don't know, lucky again and have this just not be a nuisance. But I'm just pushing this LED straight into this channel, and hopefully, no, it's gonna get stuck. So, got a backup plan. We're gonna take a bamboo skewer, some painter's tape, and tape it to the front of this light, and then just push it straight through. Of course, being careful not to mar up any of the existing things, but we're going to just tape this on. So we got it taped onto the front, and then just push this through. So let's see as we go. We're just lightly pushing. Hopefully there's not a whole lot of resistance, and just like that, it poked through the front. You can see that's the painter's tape. So now I gotta keep pulling it through a little bit. Actually, I can probably pull this quite a ways, but just so I can get the painter's tape off, so I can get the barbecue skewer out. And now if I hold on to the painter's tape, I can roll the barbecue skewer and just take all this off. Pro tip, use less painter's tape. There we go. And I'm just going to pull the barbecue skewer out, and we can reuse that. Don't need to throw that away. But we have now the red LED. Let's see, where is it? Coming all the way through, which is nice. And what I use for the last one, I think, is just super glue. I don't think I used anything else fancy. Now, I could be wrong, but it's just kind of plastic to plastic. I'll take another water break because it's been now 2.5 hours. And this dashboard was specifically designed for these 1.8mm LEDs because there is a small gap at the front, so you can see the LED, and in the back there's a square hole because these LEDs do have a little square channel around it. So all we're going to need to do is apply a little bit of super glue to the edges of this LED and then stick it in to this gap here, and everything should just stay in place. So I'm going to just test it lightly here quick, just to make sure that is the case. I need tweezers because they're really small. Yeah, that should be just fine. And that light sticks through just as expected. So again, I'm going to apply just a tiny bit of super glue along the edge of this light, this LED, not on the top, because the top's where it actually shines through, and you don't want to gunk that up. But just a little bit on the end will be just what we need. Unless my super glue has, oh, nope, it's not completely dried. Okay, good. Glad we got that out. So it's just going to be a tiny bit. This is going to be hard to see, so just bear with me here. Of course, don't need a whole ton because this is a tiny part that shouldn't get a whole lot of movement, but I'm just going to then carefully hold it in place once it gets into that correct gap. Okay, and then once it's in there, which I think it is, yeah, I can even just apply a little bit more super glue onto the outside just so that it stays in place. I'm going to let that sit for just a second just so it can harden up and we keep that red light secured in place. I could probably even just solder the wires while we're waiting, because that should be, again, a relatively easy... Ah, great. Of course, me being impatient, I just pulled the wires straight out of the hole that we were waiting for it to sit in, so don't do that. Just be patient. Wait for the wires to get glued in before you solder. I wonder if hot glue would work. I mean, it would work, but would it work better? Let's give it a shot. Just this is going to be the tiniest bit. Okay, that was just a tiny bit. And then I'm going to kind of push it and form it in place. There, is that any better? Maybe. All right, maybe that's better. Still just trying to like gunk it in. So yeah, it's still just not wanting to stay. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, of course. I just would rather it be more secure than less secure. Did this hot glue actually do anything? No. Okay, trying again. I wonder if foam cure would be any better. Why wouldn't? I don't know. Actually, I'll just keep trying with. Okay, I'll try to be more patient and I'm trying to do a little visual test to see if it's actually in there. And I think, yeah, it's looking good. I'm just wondering, is this stuck yet, or are we gonna accidentally pull out the wires like we did last time? I'll prep the other side, which again, we're just gonna solder on the male side of this JST connector, and I'll just use normal heat shrink this time. Okay. Okay, yeah, now I think it's actually stuck in there pretty good. So I'm going to rotate this around and close off the super glue so I don't get that everywhere. But we've just got, hopefully this is our last bit of soldering for this part. Try to figure out the best way to do this. If I pull in, I'm just trying to get the windshield back in the right spot. There we go, and our windshield, our dashboard should be all secured. And then I can rotate this over, and we just need to solder some wires to that, and we will be all ready to test it. I'm going to use less heat shrink here so I can wrap these wires together better. Alright, got our heat shrink on. Make sure to apply that before accidentally soldering your wires without it. So I'm going to get the handy dandy hands out again. And then we're going to grab one of the wires. Hopefully make quick work out of this. Okay, let's make sure everything's scooted over a ways. Okay, so we've just got a whole jungle gym of wires, which is not surprising, but we've got here red going to red. We get more tin in there. That one looks good, which means we just have black wire left. Okay, that might be good. Do a quick visual test. Yeah, those look just fine. So if I just heat shrink or shrink this heat shrink down, that should be just about all we've got to do before we test it. So one last bit of heat shrink. So make sure that that's still LED's still in. We can actually test this. The question is how. All right, at least all the parts are in place. So if you're still watching the stream, which I think is just one of you, thanks first off for watching this whole time, because probably not the most exciting, but it's cool. So got that going for me. You'll be the first one to see if this actually works, or if we're going to have a stream ended early because of smoke. But hopefully not, because we knew it was working on the bench. So LED goes from there to here, which will be the actual board. Then this will go to a battery, and then, oh yeah, we can test this like this. So we'll get the wing up in here. Let's go. Well, yeah, 100%er here since the beginning. So we'll get that out of here. We're gonna have our, let's see if I can get it on the close shot. If not, I'll go to ceiling shot, which of course is not actually on the ceiling. Let's see, maybe we'll just do this full desk. Oh, we'll do a mixable. We'll go ceiling shot, but then we'll zoom in. Okay, so this will push up a little bit more. So that's at the very top. And I also don't want anything to touch my soldering iron, because I turned it off, but it's cooling down. Okay, ultrasonic sensor. And then we've got here, I've got to make sure you can see it. It's going to be this light on this side. So if I can get it like this, maybe. I'll put it just like that. You might be able to see it, you might not. That being said, I do need to get the wire out. The ultrasonic sensor wire. Okay, that's plugged in. This plug goes to the LED, and before I plug anything in, I'm going to run the multimeter through this side, because I could just see it now. We get all the way done, and I've just got some shouty soldering. Okay, so I'm going to do the old continuity test, which is right here. I put it into continuity mode, which means if this, I don't know why it's at that, but okay, let's just clear it out. Okay, nothing. If I touch these together, where is it? touch these, we hear a sound. Sound is bad. So if I touch the ends to, let's see, I can still scoot this up a little further. Just so we can get everything in view here. Yeah, there we go. So, again, touching, bad. I'm going to put that to the power of this, and we hopefully feel nothing, which we do not. We got nothing telling us to stop. So, then, without further ado, we do have a battery here. That's one of them. I'll use the battery that I know has some charge to it, but nothing else is plugged in on purpose, just in case things go wrong. Although this is a closed circuit system, right? It's just ultrasonic sensor to board to light. So, like, it's not going to wreck the ailerons or anything. But I'm going to plug this in. And we've got a red light on. I don't know if you can see it. I wonder how or what that's reading. It's probably straight above. But if I get it so that it's not reading, can it turn off? Okay, so the light's on, which is good. It's reading something. Now, I might have to move it. Let's see, I'll zoom out so you can still see this test. But I'm going to move it away from over here just because I need that light to turn off at some point. Okay, light's still on. I don't know if you can tell. Light is on. Yeah, there you go. You can't see it. But it does us no good if it's always on. You need it to sometimes turn off. What is it reading? Is it reading me? Is it reading what? Let's open up the board just to see if all the wiring is correct, even though I'm pretty confident it is. I do have it set to, I think, 100, the code says. Ooh, I may have just cracked this part. Okay. Okay, the light's always on, which isn't the worst thing. It's just not exactly what we're looking for. It's like a good and a bad. I know it works because we're getting power straight to the light, but can we get it to not be on? Oh, is there something right in front? I wonder. Huh, it's actually, the sensor itself is getting kind of warm. I wonder if, we're mighty close, I can tell you that much, but we're not quite there just because it is not turning the light off. And we knew it worked on the bench, so it's not a matter of the parts themselves, it's just something else. Well, let's see, I could just take the system out. Right, I could just remove everything, see if again it works just sitting here. That probably should have failed the first test. Okay, it is also really warm. I wonder if this is kind of like the LED camera where it just needs airflow, and if it's underneath the plane it'll be getting constant airflow. But it is kind of warm, and it is encased in its little area, but we'll keep testing it. So if I plug this back in and then plug the battery in, we have a red light on. The red light is just staying on. It's not ever turning off. also, the sensor is getting a lot hotter than I remember it getting. Okay, I'm going to unplug. This is getting very hot, which it shouldn't, obviously. I wonder why. Because it's coming from the 3 volts, or like there's a 3.3 volt pad. It's coming from there. But why is it getting so hot? There was no continuity error. See if I can just take this other side off. Oh, I did break it. Well, that's fine. So interesting. Okay. Well, I might call the stream there just because it's been almost 3 hours. And I might have to do a little bit of troubleshooting, which might take just more patience. But yeah, we are mighty close. I'll say that. We are just, it feels like one little bug away from fixing this. I don't know if it's a soldering issue or it's a ultrasonic sensor issue. We will figure it out. But thanks to you who've been here the whole time, because that's impressive. It's been a long stream. But I will try to clean it up. I'll update the Discord when I do get it fixed. But thank you so much for watching. I'll stay on for a little bit as I clean up. But this has been Inverted Aviators RC. Thanks for watching.